my name is Keith Nolan. I am a cadet private. So today I want to talk about the military. How many of you thought about joining the military before? How many of you? I see some hands. That's what I thought too. Ever since I was a young boy, I always wanted to join the military. I love reading about military history. I have several family members, my grandpa, my great uncle that were involved in World War II. I want to serve my country. But can I? No, I can't. Because I'm deaf. But it doesn't matter. I know inside I have a passion for joining the military. For example, after high school, 3 months before 9/11, when I graduated, I went into a naval recruiting center. Walk in, hoping to join the Navy. This big Navy guy stood up and, started talking to me, and I couldn't read his lips. So I said, sorry, I'm deaf. And he goes, just takes a step back, rips off a little piece of paper and wrote 3 words on it. Bad ear, disqual. Didn't even fully spell disqualified. Bad ear, disqual. So I tried a couple different places, different times, but they all told me the same thing. You're deaf. Sorry, you can't join. So I kind of switched gears a little bit. I got into education. I got a master's in deaf education. Been teaching for almost 2 years, and then 3 things happened last spring. First thing, I was teaching a U.S. history class in high school about the Mexican-American War. The bell rang, students were getting ready to leave, and one of my students came up to me and said, I want to join the military. And I said, sorry, you can't, you're deaf. And then it hit me. I have been getting told no all along. Now it's my turn to tell my student no? It really struck me. I couldn't. One of my friends just moved to Israel. You know that the Israeli military allows deaf people? So the second thing that happened to me is one of my friends just moved to Israel. Did you know that Israel allows deaf people in their military? Did you know that? Yeah, seriously. How could deaf people be in the military? Come on. So I went to Israel this past summer, and I interviewed 10 deaf Israeli soldiers. And I'll get more into that later. So the third thing that happened to me is my alma mater just recently established a ROTC program. ROTC is short for Reserve Officer Training Corps. So while you're in college, you can, at the same time be in this Army program. When you graduate, you'll be ready to join the Army. You'll be a second lieutenant in the Army. That's what the ROTC program is for. So I thought, I'm already a teacher, but, let's just send an email. So I sent him an email, and I let them know I'm deaf. I was wondering if I could maybe take some classes, and then I could share your lessons with my students, maybe. I got a response. For the first time, I didn't get shut down because I was deaf. They responded, interesting, maybe we could work it out. Maybe, you could take a few classes with us. For the first time. I like teaching, but I need this opportunity to get my foot in the door. So, all my life, talking with people, my experiences, everything I've read, I decided I was going to write a research paper about deaf people in the military. 98 pages of research. Talking about Americans have had deaf people serve in the Army. The Texas Independence War had a key captain, Deaf Smith, in the Texas Independence War. The Civil War, Gallaudet University has a full list of deaf people, both from the North and the South, that fought in the Civil War. It's a rare occurrence to see World War II having deaf soldiers, but there are several of them that served our country. So my point is that America has had deaf soldiers before. My paper also talks about deaf Israeli soldiers. They serve non-combative roles in the Israeli military. They're supportive roles. There's a plethora of jobs: intelligence, computer technology, map drawing, supplies, dog trainers, there's a whole list. So how do they communicate? Well, the same way we do every day in the hearing world. We read lips, use our voice, gesture. Maybe some of them know sign language. They use paper and pen, text, email. It's the same as every day. There's no magic communication wand. And so they do have interpreters for boot camp and other trainings, but for everyday work, they don't use interpreters. They don't need to. The Israeli army works in small units, so each one develops their own way of communicating with each other. They don't need interpreters. So I met several deaf Israeli soldiers, and this is a picture of the Prime Minister speaking with one. So my paper also talks about disabilities in the U.S. military. Serving in the Army is a dangerous job and you can get hurt. For one example, there's a captain that a bomb exploded and he lost his leg. He recovered and he has a prosthetic leg. But he's now back serving in Afghanistan. And guess what? He's not the only one. There are 40 other amputees like him in combative roles. There's also blind soldiers in the military. There's one in Iraq right now where a car suicide bomber exploded and he lost his eyesight. He recovered, but he didn't leave the Army. He's still in active duty, running a hospital for wounded soldiers. I also found online one soldier who's deaf that developed a civil program in Iraq. And one of those programs in Iraq is a deaf school. So, I mean, it's amazing. If the military can take care of its soldiers, why can't it accept disabled citizens? Also, the military, over 80% of the jobs are non-combative. There are so many jobs that we could do as deaf people. If I joined the military, I would work in intelligence. But we could do mechanics, finance, medicine, you name it. So, my three main arguments are, if Israel opens the military for the deaf soldiers, why can't the U.S.? The U.S. Army has disabled soldiers in it already, and over 80% of the jobs are non-combative. So, I ask you, can we deaf Americans serve our country? Yes, of course. No doubt. So now I want to talk about my experience with the ROTC, which I've been doing since last fall. So this is the first time that they had a deaf cadet. They've never had one before. So of course it was kind of an adjustment for everybody. I had to figure out, can I do this? How we're going to communicate? Many of them have never even interacted with a deaf person before. And plus, I really, had to learn a whole new world of military, jargon and things like that. So we started off slow, learned a lot about each other, how we were going to work together. For example, first day of class, I had no uniform, just regular clothes. Everyone else had a uniform. So every morning at 5:30 in the morning, we had workout, physical training. And then on Fridays, we had field training. And some weekends we did some Army-based training. So I showed up every morning at 5:30 in, regular civilian clothes, ready to work out. And, they told me, you don't have to work out. You could just, watch the class. And I said, no, I want to. And they okay, I worked out every morning. And on Fridays I asked, can I do the field training? And they were like, no, it's you're just taking the class. And I said, I want to try it. And they were like, okay, you can't join it, but you can watch. And I took it. On that Friday, I went, I watched them do their marching drills, learning how to stay in focus and salute, and I just really wanted to try it. So finally, they let me go in and try. So I figured it'd be better if I stood, like second or third row so I could follow the other people. But the officer, which was the one that actually responded to my email, said, no, get up front. You want to join the Army? You're going to learn the commands. You're not going to follow other people. Learn it yourself. I mean, he treated me like a person. So a few weeks went by, still had no uniform. And I pestered him about, can I have a uniform? Can I have a uniform? Got shut down. And finally, one day, I said, can I have a uniform? They said, yeah. He said, what changed? He said, I saw your motivation. You showed up every day. You gave 110%. So I'm going to give you a uniform. So I went to the military warehouse. I thought it was just going to be a uniform. But no, it was 2 duffel bags full of gear. A helmet, vest, shovels. I mean, you name it. And I have to tell you, every morning I get up, I put on this uniform, I feel privileged. It is an honor to wear this uniform. So, going on to Army base training, at first I was worried because if the interpreter got hurt, they were going to be liable. So we kind of had to figure out how to work that out, and finally they let me go. So, little by little, I just, they keep giving me a little more. At base training one time, the helicopter landed, one of the big Army helicopters, and they told us all to get on the helicopter. So I got my backpack on, I'm ready to go. And the officer says, yeah, no, you can't get on the helicopter. What if the pilot yells orders and you can't follow it and you mess everything up? So everyone else got on the helicopter. The other officer, they kind of talked about it for a second, and finally, last minute, he yelled, get on the helicopter. So I ran my butt on that helicopter. Oh, I was so pumped. We really learned a lot about each other, how to support each other, how to involve everyone in everything. There was no separation. This is my passion, I love this. I'll show you a picture. This was the squad that I was involved in. I had to learn a lot about myself, what I could and couldn't do. When you work hard with these people, you become family. I learned a lot about classes, how to be a leader, learning about bombs, land, I learned so much. Accommodations, yeah, I had an interpreter provided. It was, not an easy feat. It was hard to find an interpreter that would be up at 5:30 every morning with me, yeah. This is the officer that responded to my email. Lieutenant Mendoza. And that's my interpreter before class started. This was last fall. It was kind of, awkward picture before class. That was Lieutenant Colonel Phillips. He is the leader of the whole battalion. I feel like a soldier. There's almost no words for it. They really motivate me, and I just have so much respect for them. This is some pictures of training. That's the helicopter that we got to go on. Every cadet has a mentor. They teach you, one-on-one how to do things. One day, our group went to Las Vegas to see, different types of physical training, swimming, running, shooting. You had to pass all the tests. That's what my little medal is here for. This is one of the sergeants, Sergeant Richardson. I love him. He does not take baloney from anyone. This is one morning. when we ran 7.5 miles with a 40-pound bag in 2 hours. These are my fellow cadets. I've worked with them so long that I've made name signs for a couple of them. This is Trinidad. This is his name sign because he's always being sarcastic. This is Frigo. Two of us are always competing when it comes to intelligence. And this is Jarvis. I named him that because he has a big scar on the side of his face. This is Secretary of Chief of Staff and Secretary of Defense, who he recently spoke in LA. I went up to meet him and I said, "Hi, it's nice to meet you." And I signed to my interpreter, "It's nice to meet you." And he said to my interpreter, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." He was all sorts of confused. And then he just went on to shake everybody else's hand. I don't think he knew that I was deaf. So, everything was really going fine until up about 2 weeks ago. So the ROTC has 4 levels. I'm currently doing the first 2 now, which I'll finish in May. And then I'll start the 3rd level this fall. Well, to get to the 3rd level, you have to pass a medical exam. And obviously I can't hear, so I'm going to fail the hearing test. So, I was told if you want to continue to level 3, you can't do the physical training anymore. You can't do the field trainings anymore. You can't go to the army base. You have to give back your uniform. So, you can audit the classes, but that's it. And it just really hit me. My officer, felt the same way I did. And my fellow cadets, they empathize with me. So they tried to get, the higher-ups, he passed all of his physical tests. He's one of the best one we have, but they said, sorry, policy is policy. And so my officer tried to find a way that that I could join. He found a cadet at the Citadel, which is a military college in South Carolina, is in his 4th year. He's going to graduate this May. Same story as me. Can't get into the army because he's deaf. What? My officers told me, don't give up. We'll make it work. They started talking with Congress. They started talking to Congressman Henry Wiseman. But I need your help. I need your support. Before African Americans couldn't join the army, now they can. Before women were banned from joining the army, and now they can. The military is changing, and it's time. And it's our time. Hooah.